Hello, this is Maurie with AI in Action. I'm sitting here with my husband Jim, and actually, we are in San Diego, California. We are going for, or we're here actually the last few days for the ASU GSB Air Show. Agnes, our AI toolbox, got an Innovator Award, and so we actually drove to California and presented Agnes today on the floor, and then we're headed back to Texas tomorrow. So I am in the lobby. I'm actually sitting here at the Doubletree Hilton in San Diego, outside the elevators, actually, because we were having a little bit of an echo in the hotel room. So I came out here in the hallway, and now Jim and I are going to talk about all the different things that we saw at the ASU GSB Air Show. So, Jim, what did you think about the air show?
Um, Overall, it was good. It wasn't. Wasn't as big as I was expecting it to be. I was kind of thinking it was going to be a lot bigger, be more people. Um, I think that theme that you had started with one of the districts, people from a district you talked to, who said that his school district wouldn't pay for him to come out here because it wouldn't let him off. I think there's a lot of trepidation over budgets. So I don't think as many people came as they intended
Right.
because I think
I'd
they're
heard
expecting
numbers
like
like,
14,000 people.
yeah, and I mean, there was the ASU GSV Summit is going on right now, which is like a really big
Hmm.
venture capital summit. And maybe they
Hmm.
had all of the people there. I mean, maybe that's where everybody was at. But I do know that the actual air show, which was for educators. I mean, we had like there's a K-12 section and there was a higher ed section. And
Hmm.
I saw a lot of people, but yeah, I was expecting a bigger number, and I 100% agree that it is a budget problem. Um, we're Education is just not spending money right now. I mean, with all the different federal cuts and the grant cuts, and um, everything's just really flat. And I think everyone's kind of afraid to spend the money. They literally, I think they're wanting to roll it back into the managing, the operating, and keep money, anything left over for this year's budget. They're like, nope, nope, we're not going to spend it. We're going to save it for next year. So I
Yeah, I kind of
agree.
thought
It was a little
I kind of
smaller.
expect I kind of expected that budget problem theme when it comes to AI. When you look at the top reasons, we talk about them all the time. When you look at the top reasons, the top things that keep superintendents awake at night, and AI is not even in the top 10, much less the top four. And I think
Unless you're
that,
talking AI and cheating. If you're talking AI and cheating, then they're
yeah,
thinking about it. But
yeah, but
yeah.
that's thinking about how to prevent it, not how to use it. We are hearing, you hear a lot from different companies like, Magic School or Conmigo or others about all the school districts that they're in. But you have to wonder, are they in them because they have a free version and people are just using the free version, or if they're actually able to sell them in the districts? Because the districts, the underlying theme that I got, we went last night, we went to a after show party so you could, meet with your fan club, which apparently you had lots of people there that knew you and wanted to see you and said hello to you because I guess because you're friendly and you do a lot of stuff on LinkedIn. But the underlying theme that I keep hearing over and over again is it's an uphill slog getting people to see the value of AI in their district. And
Mhm.
I think that's unfortunate. I think it's unfortunate because I think when you view AI through the lens that we did when we started is that teachers have way too much to do and they need better tools or they're not going to be able to do it. And you put AI in the place to allow them to do their job more efficiently or better. I think that AI is extremely valuable. I do think that there is a lot of uncertainty associated with it, and the cost of the way people are selling it to the school districts is making the cost seem abnormally high because they're always selling it per user per month or per user per year. The prices come down tremendously, as we found out today, but
I agree. I agree.
there's still a lot of people out there going, I don't know if I just don't know if I can afford this. And this, it's hard.
Well, and you and I have talked about it before when it comes just like your return on your investment. Whenever you look at what you're spending, even if it's just an annual cost, if I'm paying $12,000 a year to have an AI tool, and that's just one tool, that's not even like, 5 or 6 different tools that you hear about. If it's just one tool and I'm spending $12,000 a year on it, and then I have like 30 teachers out of 200 that use it occasionally, that's not good. That's not good money. That's not good spending. It's not a good return. So it's just not a smart purchase.
Yeah,
But
well,
I
it might
was
be smart at some
surprised at
point, but it's not smart right now. So anyway,
right. So I was surprised about you know, the LinkedIn presence. I got to meet a lot of people that I follow on LinkedIn and that follow me on LinkedIn. And so it was really great to put like, you know, in real life, basically, you got to
names
meet
to
them and say,
faces,
oh, you're
faces to
not
names.
names to faces and, shake a lot of hands and stuff. So that was a lot of fun. Um, there were a lot of districts that were here that were innovators. I think that's something that they did this year, which was to recognize districts that are being a little more forward thinking and a little more open to AI. And what are you doing at your district specifically on the innovator floor? I think they had, what, 12? I think at least 12 tables set up for these people to have like 40 minutes to talk about what they're doing. And there was a
Mhm.
lot of people who were there that are doing some really interesting things at their districts, grassroots mainly. I mean, small groups.
It's almost all
I think
grassroots
that,
and what it feels like.
yeah, yeah, I think that people just aren't getting the adoption of artificial intelligence that they'd hoped to get. I think a lot of it's still just like the useless stuff that we see, like whenever they came out with the image generator stuff, and then all of a sudden, all of the social media platforms are getting flooded with all of these, avatars and Minecraft and Simpson
Ghibli.
pictures and the Ghibli stuff. Yeah. And so if you're in education and you see that that's what's catching their attention, how seriously are you going to take it? So I think that it's going to be really difficult. We did have a good conversation this evening. We went to another little event that we'd been asked to go to concerning computer science and education. And that's been an uphill battle for a long time. And I think that AI is facing the same and will continue to face the same battle that computer science faced in education. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, computer science's battle is a little bit more specific to a particular subject, whereas AI has the potential to make a more general improvement in a teacher's ability to do whatever it is the teacher needs to do. So I I think the battle's going to be equally as hard, but it shouldn't be equally as hard. You know, I've tried very hard to stay away from from saying that if you're using AI, you're innovative, and if you're not using AI, you're not, because I don't think either one of us believe that. It's hard not to say it that way because we feel like AI is the future. But from our perspective, when we look at it, we've never approached it as, here's the future. You know, you should use this because it's where everybody's going. We look at it as, here's a very useful tool that allows you to do something in half the time or a third the time you could do before, like your GPT that you made recently, which you can talk about in a second. And the fact that we took that same concept of your GPT and easily built it in to Agnes, I think that it's one of those things where if you don't want to think of it as innovative or think of yourself as being behind because you're not doing it, then think of it as you're missing an opportunity to. It'd be like using a not using a wrench and using a pair of pliers to take a bolt off. I mean, you've got a better tool. Use the better tool.
I agree. I agree. Yeah, the GPT that I did was basically I was asked to go to a meeting because we were talking about the TEKS, which is the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. It's basically the standards that Texas education is teaching in public schools. And there's something that's called unpacking the TEKS. which is, you look at the TEK, you see what it is, you define it. How am I supposed to teach it? Is it an emerging skill? Is it something they're supposed to be proficient at? Here's your common misconceptions when you are teaching it. So it's like a formula that teachers have been trained on how to look at the TEK and do step one, step two, step three, step four, and so forth and so on. And when they told me that they were going to be hiring in some people to come in and train the teachers, one of the first things I did was I was like, that's a great idea, but I really think that AI can do this and do it a lot faster. So I went back and forth with an AI and I said, hey, have you ever heard of this? And yes, absolutely. Do you know what the best practice is to unpack a teak? And it was, yes, here it is. I verified where it got its information from. I had it give me a prompt, and then I built that into a custom GPT so that now any of our teachers at our district, and I mean, we're going to do professional development for unpacking the teaks in the state of Texas. And then we're going to give out these GPTs to other districts for free. The PD is not free, but the GPT will be. And it's like 3 seconds, 10 seconds. A teacher can copy paste the TEK into it and it'll unpack it for them. And then they can look at it and they can vertically align it. So again, it's one of those things that artificial intelligence took an all-day training that a teacher would have to sit through, and you can compress that into like 20 minutes of showing you how to do this and go over it a couple of times and then give them a GPT, or in our case, we added it into Agnes, and it's done. So not only does it save the teacher a whole day, it potentially saves the district thousands of dollars because they were going to bring in 4 or 5 trainers because you have to train. They want to train everyone from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. So
Yeah, we don't even have a
AI
huge number
has
of
huge
teachers.
benefits.
We don't even
No.
have a huge number of teachers, and when you start talking about training that many, you definitely have to have more people. I think you and I both agree that there is a value. The teachers do need to know how to do it because they have to evaluate the output of the AI and maybe tune it. Even part of when we talk about creating prompts, the create thing we do, one of the things we talk
Mhm.
about is adjustment. So, but to adjust a prompt, you have to understand that the output is correct or not. And I think that having that training is valuable because the teachers know how to make the adjustment. The AI just speeds things up and makes it more efficient. So, anyway, moving on to a different aspect. Well, do you have something else you want to say about that topic before I
Well,
moved?
I
I was
mean,
going to say something else.
no, go ahead. I was going to move on. Like, okay, is there anything else you wanted to say about
Well,
this ASU
the
GSB?
conference, yeah, the conference itself, a few things. If when you go to these conferences a lot, which we've been to many, many of them, and I have even before we were doing this, I went for years. You tend to look at the overall theme, and obviously, and there's kind of a secondary underlying thing that you try to find. The overall theme is obviously AI's here, AI's everywhere. Here's how you use it. And there was a lot of companies, small companies, that have started with different, very creative ways of giving the user a better experience, a more specific experience with AI. A good example would be unpacking antiques, but there is a lot of them in there that I call prompt generators that have evolved as they've gotten influx of cash from just generating prompts to teachers to allowing you to create custom chatbots, which is the equivalent of a custom GPT kind of thing in most cases, custom chatbots that kids can use and things like that. And I see that, and I think it's great, and I think it's very innovative. Unfortunately, we're also seeing the beginnings of what we thought was going to happen in the first place, which is companies like Google are going to start giving away stuff for free because, I mean, that's why Google owns the education space right now in many cases because they made the Chromebooks dirt cheap, easy to manage. They gave away the administration console for free to deal with them. And they made Google for the Google Classroom stuff for free. So they gave away free so they could own the market, and it worked. I mean, there's so many schools that use these tools from Google. And now you're seeing
Yes.
Google saying, okay, here's Notebook LLM or Notebook LM. It's going to be free. And OpenAI released something recently that also, I don't remember what it was, but we looked at it and go, okay, there's several companies that are probably going to go away. These big companies are trying to sweep all that functionality into what they have because they don't want they want to own not just what you do, but how you do it. And we all know why, because it's a great opportunity for advertising. If you're not buying a product, you are the product. So,
Right,
I mean, I think that's an underlying theme that I saw is that people like Google are going to start giving away a lot of stuff for free. It's going to be really hard for these companies to sustain the kind of growth that they want to sustain and get the venture capital, which is why we built
right,
the Agnes the way we did, because I wanted to see the value add independently of the companies. Matter of fact, I wanted to make it independent of the companies in case one went away or one changed their theme or we just didn't like the way they did things, kind of thing. So, yeah,
yeah.
did you get that
I mean,
that kind of idea too?
I did. I did. And I mean, we talked about this, I think we talked about it last time on the podcast. It's like, we all know that Google is going to the reason that OpenAI came about is because they did not want Google to own the space. Yeah, right. I mean, they created the
Yeah, that's
company
what they
because
said.
they were afraid of the Google, and that's why. So
That's what
they
they
started
said.
OpenAI, and then we've talked about it in our presentations that all of a sudden Google research is the one that released the paper that ended up getting us the large language models as we know them today. Right?
Hmm.
The GPT, the generative pre-trained transformer, the transformer
Attention is
paper.
all you need.
Attention is all you
Attention
need,
is all you
right?
need. Yeah.
Correct. So
Yes.
Google is the one that released the paper that caused all of this. So
Mm-hmm.
it's that situation to where we kept looking at what they were putting out there and we were like, really? Is this really what you're putting out in the space? And then
This
we
is the best you
commented,
got.
is this the best you got? Come on. What are you doing? What are you doing? Well, we kind of was like, okay, what are they waiting on? It's like they were the sleeping giants. And
They
all of a
were.
sudden now we're starting to see the evidence that they're like, okay, now that we've worked out all the kinks and now that, we know where it's going to go, guess what? We're waking up and we're going to give it the A game and we're going to give it away for free. And you're right. All these other companies, you cannot compete with that. And I mean,
No,
let's face it, Notebook LM, it's a
it's
great
pretty dang cool.
product.
That is a pretty dang
It's
cool
very
product. It
cool.
is.
Yeah, it really
Do I
is.
think
And
it's the end
so,
all? I don't think it's the end all for everything. I think there's more that we can do in a classroom that's interesting. I think it's just going to be hard for billionaires to be made from it. I think that a lot of people that have gotten tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in investments, and they're going to look at it and go, okay, how am I going to get that investment back? Because they need to own those users. They need to have the users very engaged. They need to have the users giving them more information. They need to be able to sell them and upsell them. And there's just a lot of things that need to happen to keep that stickiness that you want with your customers so they stick with your products. And it's just too easy for Google. I don't think the Google piece was well thought out. I think what Google did is they were asleep at the wheel. And if you think about it, Google should have owned this market a long time ago. When they released the Transformer paper, OpenAI grabbed a hold of that. But OpenAI, it was kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy because OpenAI came into being to prevent Google from taking over, but Google probably wouldn't have taken over had they not come into being because Google was asleep at the wheel and wasn't really in any hurry whatsoever to roll out anything to do with AI because they were perfectly happy with it being better and better at scraping all your data and making sure they understood you and using analytics to sell more ads. They were fat, dumb, and happy with their ad sales. They had no intention of upsetting that apple cart. So OpenAI doing
right,
what they did actually woke Google up. Well, but it was a slow wake up, and now Google is slowly but surely coming around to go like because it's affecting search. They wouldn't even have cared if it wouldn't have affected search. But now that it's
right.
affecting search, Google cares, and they've got so
Because they're
much
losing
data
that revenue. Yeah, they're
that
losing that
potentially
revenue
they
from those
are. I mean,
ad sales. Well, on our trip down here,
perplexity. Yeah.
on our trip down
Oh, we
here,
were
one of the
using
things that we
you were
did,
using
yeah,
OpenAI.
I mean, we were not using Google. I mean, when we were
No, we
looking at
did
like,
not.
and it was really cool because, when we were driving, we were seeing some mountain ranges in the distance, or we were seeing some, some landmarks and stuff like that, some geological stuff. And you would
Hmm.
take a picture with your phone and ask ChatGPT on your phone, I'm on I-10 headed toward California in New Mexico. What am I seeing in the distance? And it would say, based on where you're at, that's probably this mountain range, and you're probably here, and this is it's volcanic, or it was a seabed, or it was we
It was
even
cool.
commented how much it was really cool. But not once did we Google anything,
No,
right?
Google
I
knows
mean,
that. That's why they're waking up and they're starting to do their thing. Unfortunately, as Google gets more involved, it's in danger of doing what we talked about in the first place, which is everything becomes very generic, very vanilla. I mean, they want to keep everything, they want to keep their cash flow business predictable. And the way to do that is to keep things kind of even. You get it to a point that people are happy enough, and then you just kind of leave it there. And then you incrementally add a little bitty features here and there, but you don't do anything dramatic because it affects your ability to forecast your cash flows. So I think Google is probably going to continue to wake up because they, like I said, with Perplexity is very small, but they are affecting Google's search a little bit. OpenAI has got
okay,
search built in now, which you and I mentioned that we used. So Microsoft has search. Even Agnes has web search built in. And I can pick the search engine that I use that our teachers use. So Google knows that, and
right.
they're not going to allow it because search is probably 90% of their business. So they're going to wake up. They're going to keep doing it. But the thing that was missing from this conference that surprised me?
What?
Hardware. I didn't. We had to deal with Intel. We looked at the Intel AI PC,
Yeah.
but mostly what we saw was different ways of wrapping AI functionality into some either existing thing or something that you hadn't thought of before, solving math problems or generating prompts for this, but it was pretty much all software as a service, business as usual, software as a service, and there was very little discussions of hardware, which kind of surprised me because inferencing and getting inferencing faster and the power and all that stuff is kind of an important piece of where we go from here with AI. If that inferencing doesn't get cheaper, which it is, but if it doesn't get cheaper and it doesn't get faster, then it limits the ability for this industry to grow. At least
I
that's my
agree.
opinion.
I agree. Yeah, now that you mention it, I didn't see anything. So let's step away from the show that we were at. We have just, 5, 6 minutes left on our podcast. Is
Yeah,
there
I'm
anything
wearing out.
else
I'm
going
tired.
on? I am tired. Well, we're in California, so it's 2 hours later. So in Texas, we're
For at least
two
our body
hours.
thinks it is. Yeah.
Our body clock, we haven't been here long enough, our body clock.
Hmm.
Anything else like in the news that you've noticed lately that you wanted to talk about or mention? Is there anything going on that's like, why did they do this or what's going on? Any new announcements? Because
No, I mean,
I haven't really caught anything. I mean, yeah, the image generation and OpenAI picked up 1 million new subscribers and stuff like that. But I haven't really noticed anything
I haven't been following
major.
because you and I've been traveling and all this stuff. I haven't followed the last few days. But I can't think of anything. There's so much news going on about the tariffs, and there's so much news going on about crashing economies. It's kind of pushed everything else to the side, and nobody cares. Um,
Yeah.
so I haven't seen anything that really caught my attention or got me real excited. I mean, I read papers and stuff still, but it's always kind of business. Here's the latest, greatest thing that's going to take over Chat GPT or take over this, that, or the other. But it's like, okay, yeah, I've heard that before. So no, not really. I mean, it's been kind of plain,
Slow.
ordinary stuff lately, for at least for me.
Yeah. So I think we'll probably end up with some of their announcement in like a week or so. I'm wondering what's going on with OpenAI trying to get, the government to tell them that they can,
Hmm.
have access to all the copywritten stuff. And, so I think we're going to end up getting some more news in the next week or so when everything else kind of calms down and falls out of favor
Oh yeah, if they
in
want to
social
become
media.
incredibly unpopular, people are going to hate them more than they hate Elon Musk and Tesla right now if they're not careful because there's going to be a lot of uproar from people who write for a living, which means they're going to write about it. If you start telling them that copyrights don't mean anything when it comes to AI, it's not gonna. There's gonna be some unhappy campers, and I don't see that is really bad press. They really need to come up with a better way of doing that. I realize that they have to have data, and I realize that data continuously gets more expensive. But that's how supply and demand is supposed to work. If you have a limited supply and a
And
lot of demand, welcome to capitalism, baby. It's
yeah,
you pay more for it if you, and they don't want to pay more for it because they say they can't afford it. Well, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, that's kind of how it's supposed to work. You're not supposed to be able to just go take
right.
somebody's land away from them. Only the government does that. Oh, wait a minute. That's what they're
Mhm.
trying to do, is get the government to do it. Anyway,
Yeah, it's
we probably
true.
should
It's
wrap
true.
up before I doze off.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
just been a
okay, so we're
long
actually
day.
getting we normally go about 34, 35 minutes, so we're actually gonna,
Yeah,
go about
we're
5 minutes
gonna wrap up.
short tonight. So that's
Mm-hmm.
fine. Yeah, we are tired. I think we're gonna go ahead and call it. We thought about going back to the show tomorrow, but I think we're gonna go ahead
Maybe.
and
We're
head
probably
back
gonna head
home.
back. Because
Yeah, I think
why?
so.
Because we have a 17-hour drive ahead of us. You know why? Because somebody won't fly.
Yeah, okay, you've
Have I
mentioned that
mentioned
on
that
every
lately?
single podcast, for like the last 6 months, every single
Have
podcast
I?
you've given me a hard time.
Really? You sure?
Yes,
I don't
yes,
think I've
I'm
mentioned
positive.
that.
And once I get off this podcast, I'm going to come back into the hotel room and I am going to beat you up, and people are going to know. Yeah, I was like, there. I notice I didn't say kill you because I don't want that to
Yeah,
be
that's right.
on like a
That's
video of
being.
any kind.
That's right.
But so we are Maurie and Jim, and
Hold
we
on.
do like professional developments. We go into
Hmm.
school systems and we train about artificial intelligence, which we have a lot of fun doing that. We have a
Hmm.
website, AI Education Professionals. It's AIED Pro, AIEdPro.com. Of course, we have our podcast that we do once a week just because we
And
like to hear each other talk.
you're on LinkedIn a lot, apparently, because there was a
Yeah,
lot of
I
people
am.
came
I'm
up
on
to us.
LinkedIn.
One lady, a couple of people even had their picture taken with you. So apparently, you're on LinkedIn a lot.
Well, it's one of those things. I am on LinkedIn a lot. I don't have a lot of like
I know.
followers, but I think the followers that I have engage. And I am
You have a
very
high engagement. You've got
opinionated.
a couple. You've got a lot of followers. I mean, you got a lot more than I
Well,
do. That's
well,
because I'm
come on,
never on
Jim.
LinkedIn.
I say if
Mm.
I had one follower, I'd probably have more than
Oh,
you,
I have
right?
at least.
But
I think I have like 100. I think I have 100 followers. So.
I think for me, I think it's because we are in such a unique situation that we're in rural America, and I'm so passionate about the digital divide and education and what's going on in
Hmm.
education. And I am not afraid to say it. I'm not afraid to say, guys, we are messing this up. We've got to think a different
Yes.
way. So I am I am knocking I'm knocking 60 on the door in the next couple of years, and I'm
Oh,
just
you're a
like,
long ways away.
it
You're a
it's
young pup.
time. Yeah, right. It's I'm tired of keeping my mouth shut when it comes to what are we doing. So I think that
I didn't
that's
realize you
why
did that.
people. Oh, ha ha ha. Anyway, we're going to get off now while Jim is still able to, yeah, while we still have a Jim and Mari to be together. So,
Be
you
nice.
guys, we hope that y'all have a marvelous rest of the week.